Hey guys, what's going on? Derek James here, GovKidMethod, and today we have another interview. The last interview that we did with Florentina was such a big hit. I did get multiple requests from folks asking that or basically just letting me know that that was very valuable and it'd be great to have this type of content more on the channel. And so I actually, kind of at the same time last week when I went live, we had one of our regular community members, Jeff here, let me know that he won his first contract. And I was like, man, we got to keep this train moving with that. And so we kind of connected offline and decided to set something up. So in today's video, we're going to be doing an interview here with Jeff talking about his contract. It actually was a state level contract, which was different from Florentina's contract, which was on the federal space. And I thought that would be a really great thing for us to go into to see that, hey, it doesn't have to be federal. Those of you who follow me know that I focus a lot in the federal space, but we can even get into talking about maybe some of the similarities between the state and federal, things like that, that I think would be helpful to you guys that are watching on the channel. So I think that's enough build up. Jeff, thanks for being here today.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome anytime.
Great. So I think we can just kind of just get right into it. I know everybody's really dying to know, and that's why they clicked on this video. Could you just tell us a little bit about the contract that you just won?
Yes, it's actually a COVID cleaning contract for the state of Georgia. It consists of buildings as well as vehicles. Also, it could go into schools, hospitals. It's whatever they need at that particular time, statewide for the state of Georgia.
Wow, that's awesome. And hey, I just moved down to Alabama, so I think we're only, kitty corner states away. So I may end up doing some sort of, live in-person event. Since you're so close, I would love to, connect with everybody that's local in the space. But that's awesome that it was for COVID. I have heard of these COVID contracts on the state and federal levels. And the fact that it's statewide, sounds like they can pretty much use you anywhere that they kind of want to. What was the dollar value or what is the kind of the magnitude of this contract since, COVID is kind of unknown right now?
I think what they were trying to do was get an idea of where the money market would be for this particular contract. Mm-hmm. So what they did was when we filled out our bid, we had how much we would do for a standard 5,000 up to 5,000 square foot building. And then anything beyond 5,000 square foot, what is our percentage rate? Which we do anywhere between 2 to 10 or maybe 10 to 20 cent per square feet. Everything had to be like electrostatic or use your foggers. And then we had to break down what the price would be for actual wipe down included. And then we also had to bid on vehicles. So like cars, buses, anything in the transportation department. So that's how they
clean those for you to clean those vehicles, you're saying?
Yes. So you would go in and spray those vehicles down for COVID and then wipe them down as well and go from there.
Got it.
So they would give you a fleet. So, and now that they have a range of pricing, because they had 12 districts in the state of Georgia. So you had to bid on how many districts you could do. So I basically bidded on the whole entire district from South Carolina to Alabama. I just followed the 85 court line instead of me going, all the way to the mountains back down to the coast.
So did you get to kind of pick and choose the areas that you wanted to hit? Because normally you have to, kind of bid on the whole thing. Did you get to choose or did you have to do all of it?
I did get to choose on the areas that I wanted to participate in.
Got it.
And that's how they awarded the contract. So they awarded 12 districts in buildings and then the 12 districts in vehicles. So you could get both or you could just get one.
Got it. Okay. So this sounds like also then it may have been in a multiple award contract then with multiple contractors, kind of getting on this vehicle.
Right.
Got it. Okay. And that's such a great, just getting a piece of the pie is, this is going to do so much for your past performance, even though, again, guys, this is state level, Georgia, you can absolutely leverage this into the federal space. I do know a few companies that are absolutely killing it in this same exact industry for, and you may know of some as well, but it really just took off. And I think what's also interesting is that, we just, turned a corner on 2021 here. And this is a contract that you just won. I don't think the government anticipates COVID going away overnight. And I don't want to get into having a conversation about COVID and everything like that. But just as it affects us government contractors, the government has to have these things in place and be able to react, because it is such an unknown. And the fact that it's 2021 and they're just putting this contract into place going forward. I mean, I think it gives us all an indication of, unfortunately, maybe where things are headed. So, Jeff, I also wanted to ask you, since you've been in the community for a while, got to interact with you on a lot of the lives. How long has your business been in place? And let me rephrase that question. Did you just start out to get into government contracting, or have you been in this type of business in the commercial sector before this?
Actually, I was in this business before this. I had a franchise company that was doing commercial cleaning, and I also worked at my regular job. And a friend of mine was there, and she was like, "Hey, why don't you get into government contracting?" She said, "I have a friend that's in it," and I was like, "Well, I don't know anything about it, but I'll check into it." And that's how it all started.
And how long ago was that? Like about a time range?
It's the early part of 2018, actually. And I was just like, well, you have your ifs and the ands. And I was like, well, my commercial, the franchise is doing good, so why should I change? And I was like, well, why not do both?
Yeah, I mean,
I started.
Like adding, supplementing and adding an additional customer to your business is really what I recommend as an approach, to kind of have customers and then add to it. So, Jeff, I know that you'd mentioned, around 2018, you said you had this commercial business going on, and you had somebody, kind of say, hey, why don't you get into this? And it's like, things are going great. Why, change it up? And, sometimes adding, supplementing with a customer is a great thing to an existing business model. So I love that. That was kind of what sounds like it was your approach. How active were you? Because it's 2021 now. So I think this is really, really beneficial for our listeners. 2018, that was, 2-3 years ago now. And you're just now winning your first contract, which is not good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. So how aggressive were you in pursuing, trying to win that first contract over the last couple of years, just to kind of give people, a gauge, especially since you had a existing business you were running. So this, government contracting may not have been 100% of your time. Give us a little bit of, view into that.
After one of my friends had told me about getting into the government contracting, I did a little research. They have so many people out there that have classes that teach you how to do this, and then you're scared because you don't want to get scammed. You just want to make sure everybody's legit. So I did a lot of research there, and then it was like February of 2018. I started a class, and I paid for that class, and that class actually lasted until November of 2018.
Oh wow!
And it was like we met once a week. We did all virtual, like we're doing now, and they gave us homework. I learned so much so fast that when I came out of it, I was lost. If that makes any.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like almost information overload a little bit. Like, hey, this is all great information, but what do I do with it?
Right, and how do you put all this into play? And then when 2019 came up, I continued to just start watching everybody's videos on YouTube. I sat back and I was like, well, then I became lazy a couple of times because I was more focused on my main business. And then I came across your videos, and that's when I started up again and took it a little bit more seriously and said, hey, now things are starting to be a refresher for me. I can understand, because sometimes when you hear it from another person's point of view, it clicks sometimes. And
absolutely,
the way they did their capability statement compared to your capability statement was totally different. And yours made a little bit more sense, and I do use your capability statement format, the front and back. And even when I go out to do just regular commercial, try to get commercial accounts, I still use that particular capability.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
And so eventually I took your course and everything, and then I sat down and I said, it's got to be another way to get into this. So I looked around the state of Georgia, and that's when I found the Georgia Procurement Services, which is a free service that they have in every single state that nobody knows about. And when I found that, I went to one of their seminars and I talked to the people there. And then I actually got connected with a counselor there. And they also help you with government, federal level and state level. But they put more of the state than they do federal.
It sounds like that's very similar to like a PTAC. Is that?
Yes, that's exactly the PTAC.
So, okay, you are referencing the PTAC. Awesome. Yep. Yeah. And I'll just jump in really quick, Jeff. A lot of you probably know who are watching this, but if you don't, there's something called the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, the PTACs, which, I'm really glad, Jeff, that you went there, because they help so many, especially brand new government contractors or so many small business owners who have no idea that they could sell their goods or services to the government, whether it's the state level or the federal level. And like Jeff said, a lot of times they will focus more on the state level, but maybe we could talk about, the differences between the two, or more importantly, the similarities. So for you guys that are watching this, kind of, I'll link it down in the video below. You have a PTAC in every county. There's supposed to be a PTAC across the country. And sometimes there's a few counties that are skipped. But if you're looking for somebody local that's free, that can help you, say, register your business, kind of get started. This is just a little bit of a plug for the PTACs. I know a lot of you already know it, but I'm still amazed at the people that I run into that don't know about it. And so that's what Jeff is talking about. It's a great resource that sounds like it kind of helped get him plugged into the state level and see what was going on around him in the state of Georgia, right?
That is absolutely correct. And they will send, after they look at your capability statement, they will register you there, and they will actually send you everything that's open within your state and the other states surrounding you that you wanted to have the PTAC for. So it's not like you have to do extra hunting for contracts.
Yeah.
They're sending it to you every day. Every single day I get that email.
And I'm familiar with, where I was from, the Michigan PTAC, and, I was linked up with their emails. Like it's not just the state level, like they'll pull from universities, they'll pull from municipalities, stuff that honestly, you wouldn't even know where to go to look. And again, guys, this is different from federal, but I never say don't do state or local. It's really what is the best strategy for you. There's a lot of commonalities. Just know this is also an opportunity for you. And in Jeff's case, he's going to be able to leverage what he got out of this to go after federal if he wants to, or if he wants to stay in this space. He can stay in the space, but it just opens doors for you, and you get to kind of choose where you want to go from there.
Right. So, and I will admit to everyone, you cannot do this by yourself. It is overwhelming. You have to have someone to help you. So I decided to bring on 2 other people to help me with even just looking over contracts. I mean, their job is to actually review the contract within the 15 to 30 minutes to see, hey, can we do this? Or do we have the potential to do this? Or and what I had them do was actually take your course, so they would know everything that I knew to be successful. So our goal was, once I brought them on, where our goal was to do at least 2 contracts per month.
Wow.
And, we had
you're talking about submissions, right? You're talking about responses.
Yeah. Just get them out there, get our name out there. And yes, we made plenty of mistakes in the beginning. I mean, my very first contract, I put too many extra zeros in there, and we submitted it, and it was like 3 million, and we hadn't planned on doing 3 million. And one of the Brandon, he accidentally put the wrong email address, so it never got submitted. So yes, so yes, we made mistakes, and so expect it to happen.
And I love that. I love that because I think that's so much. And we talked about this in Florentina's interview as well. But if you're trying to be perfect first, and then once you're perfect, you're going to start, playing the game, getting the numbers up there, like we talk about, and you're saying, hey, we've got a workflow of 2 responses per month. And, we've got a small team dedicated, to doing this assembly line type workflow and pushing it out there. If you were going to be perfect, that would never happen. And so I love that you're kind of owning and saying, yeah, we did it. We got started. We put some extra zeros, or we did the wrong email address. We made mistakes. It's going to happen. And true small business owners, true entrepreneurs, they don't let something like that hold them back, because they know that's just part of the game, part of the business. So for you guys that are watching, if you have these sort of insecurities, fears, just own it and be okay with it. You're not, I always say as an extreme, you're not going to die. I have a lot of anxiety, social anxiety and things like that. And I've gotten a lot better with it. But it's for those of you who have anxiety, sometimes it can feel that intense, like there's a threat on your life or you're going to die. And that level of fear stops you from doing anything and growing in your life or being productive or getting out of your comfort zone. We all know we have to continue to push ourselves out of our comfort zone, and that will just totally kill any, good thing in your life. And I love that you're owning, hey, this is what happened. We made some mistakes. But guess what? It's the people who make the most mistakes. It's the person who fails the most who also wins the most, because they learn the most from it, right?
Oh yes. And every job we have actually bidded on, we always send an email to find out what we need to do better.
Praise you. Thank you. I love that.
And most of the time, we do come back either with just a little too high for the bid, or our main thing that we've been noticing here lately is not enough experience.
Okay.
But we still try. So.
And now you're gaining experience. I mean, it's like the snowball that starts out like a little snowball, and then it rolls into a giant momentum boulder going down a hill. For those of you who don't have past performance or experience, and you're seeing that as evaluation criteria coming up a lot, you just got to keep hitting the numbers game until something sticks. And then once that sticks, then you gain that past performance and you can go after more competitive contracts. It's what we all have to do. And Jeff, you're like the perfect pupil, the perfect student. I mean, what you were saying about always getting a debrief after you respond, I have to take a minute to honor that as well, and echo that again for those of you who are watching. If you're going to spend the time to put a response together on bid on something, you damn well better take the time to follow up if you lost, to figure out what you could do better. Formally, this is called a proposal debrief, a request for proposal debrief. Informally, it's just following up with an email saying, hey, can I get some feedback? And that's exactly what Jeff said. And if you paid attention to what he said, rewind the video if you missed it or whatever, he does this for every submission. Again, it's like, if you're going to spend the time, do yourself a favor and get the most out of it. I absolutely preach that from, the highest soapbox I can. It's absolutely vital to make your proposals better. If you're losing and you don't know why, you get the feedback, like Jeff said, hey, for us, our number one was past performance. So now he's going to work on solving that problem, maybe presenting it in a different way, or just gaining it and using it for the future. So sorry, I keep interrupting, but I had to highlight that point as well.
No problem at all. If any other advice that I would have to give everybody, I've even looked at like subcontracting, like if we do get a federal contract or stuff like that, because we have a lot of federal state agencies here in Georgia.
Correct.
Which I'm very pleased of. So if you are going to do subcontracting, and I know the new criteria, you got to have like 50% of the people have to be your own staff and everything. Definitely go out and check your subcontracting before you put them on their list to do the work. Even when by me doing commercial cleaning, I actually went and worked for the guy, and he never knew what I came to work with him for. I wanted to
I love it.
see how he ran his business,
Yep.
whole nine. How did he do his hiring? What kind of certificates and stuff he had? And I worked for him for a whole month before I came out and told him, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is why I did this." And he was like, "Okay." And he already was doing contracts for other people.
Oh man.
So he knows the system. So, and somebody actually told me to go talk to this guy. And I was like, okay, no problem. So I did. And I actually worked with him for a whole month before I left. And I just wanted to get a feel of it. So I do recommend people make sure you check out anybody you're going to use as a subcontractor first, because I don't want my company name to be bad and get blacklisted. So yeah, you definitely have to do your homework on that. And don't get discouraged, because I did. Me and my staff got discouraged because we were like, we're putting in all this work, nothing's happening, and it will bring you to that point of, hey, are we doing this for nothing? And then now all of a sudden this came through, so that brought our spirits back up. So we're very excited, very excited.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and eventually, I always say, I heard it somewhere, hard work is never wasted. Even if it doesn't pay off immediately, it always pays off in some way, and maybe it may not be the way that you intend it to, but you're always, enhancing your skill set, you're building your confidence, because now that you went through this dry patch, or whatever you want to call it, if that happens again, and I'm sure it could, you're going to be like, well, I've been there, done that. I got faith and patience and keep doing what I know works. So, and you're bringing up so many awesome things in this interview. If you guys missed it, Jeff actually went to work for a subcontractor that he was thinking about working with. And instead of just kind of blindly hiring them on, maybe checking out their website, having a phone call with them, he actually went to work for them to scope them out, to see how their business was run, if they're on the up and up, if they're legitimate, and what is their commitment to quality standards and things like that. And only then, after working for them for about a month, he said he decided to let them know what actually was going on. I mean, if that's not a true entrepreneur, then I don't know what is. And Jeff, you are absolutely the man. I love that.
Yes, thank you.
And Jeff, I wanted to get to it. I know you got into the pricing a little bit in the contract, but I know I'm seeing so much in the group, email feedback, and YouTube in the comments as well. What was it like responding to this? I know you touched on, hey, you got to choose the different areas that you were to do business, with for this contract, when you were responding to it, trying to win it initially. But what was the proposal preparation or the proposal response like for you? Was it just pricing only, putting in numbers, or did you have to actually put together some sort of written narrative, some sort of technical response? Could you just, if you remember off the top of your head, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but kind of what was that like? I think it would really help people to know what the written response is like.
Well, they had a outline, basically, they had a pricing outline, the first one was like your scope of work, and it was like, that's all A. And then they had B was like your pricing, and then C would be all your insurances and stuff that you had to have, and D would be like your taxes, and everything just fell into order like that. And that's how they wanted you to submit that bid back to them. So what we did was we submitted the bid, but we also used your platform for submitting bids with the cover letter, our capability statement, a little bit of history about the company, each one of the employees, and then we started with what they had, their attachments, to go down all the way to the end. That's how we submitted it. Well, that's how we submit all our bids, pretty much.
Yeah, and you're spot on with what you said about the government gave me A, B, C, D, E, a bit of an outline. That's kind of where I wanted to go with this, because I always get this question. I hear it so much And it's a fair question, like, where do I get started, putting together responses? I mean, it's a big, overwhelming, thing. Sometimes it's a beast. Some of these responses can be huge, but just remember, guys, it all boils back down to following what the government is giving you. You can check out the, in the federal space, what's called the instruction to offerers, and you check out the evaluation criteria. It's probably a little bit different in the state level, but it still comes down to them telling you specifically what they want. They have to tell you what they want, and then you just have to put together the response to it. So I always say you should never start with a blank sheet of paper when you're responding to anything. You need to identify what that outline is, as Jeff said, or go in and extract the key information that they're giving you. They're telling you what they want, and then build an outline out of that. And then you sit down and you start to fill in the sections with, okay, I've got some resumes. Maybe I've got a quality control plan that I've written before, or, what have you, to fill in those sections. And then before you know it, you're 70 to 80% done. You do your pricing, and, lo and behold, you have a response. That's really how proposal writers do it. Nobody starts with a blank sheet of paper. So I love that you talked about you relying on the outline, finding the outline, identifying it, and using it.
Right. Because the last thing that we actually put on a actual bid is our cover page, our capability. That's always the last, because that's typically nothing's really changed in that if you did it correctly. I mean, the resume of your job, of your company. So it should not really change until you start adding more past performance to it.
Yep.
So
I think everyone's asking like specific questions that maybe you hadn't written about that you need to add to it. But yeah, you have that to start with, and then you just customize and critique it as you need.
Right. So you're right there. You're 25% ahead of the game right there in the beginning. So
yeah, and I think that will go a long way with our listeners and our viewers. Just once you get to that point, and you can kind of quickly get to that point, because hey, it's always going to be technical, past performance, and price. Those are the three main things, and you can probably atone to that you're going to see. It may not even be all of those factors. They may not always ask for past performance, or they may not always ask for some sort of technical write-up. It may be what's your price and some past projects or what have you. But it's some kind of medley of those three components.
Right. That is correct.
Did you find, before we move on, did you find any similarities between state and federal contracts? Because I know that you had probably been looking at federal contracts too. Or did it look like a totally different thing when you were looking at the state of Georgia contract?
They're basically about the same. The format is always the same in anything that you bid on. Actuality, to me, the state is a little easier to bid than the federal is.
Sure.
The state might, like this particular bid, we had to have it in by October the 5th, I believe it was, and they're just now awarding it. Most federal is awarded within 2 weeks. Most of them that I've seen. Yeah. So, but the layout is identical.
Got it. Yeah. And so knowing that, guys, for any of you that are, considering, I always say, hey, stick to your strategy. Don't just follow somebody else and do what they do. You have to think for yourself. But just, I talk about pros and cons. There's pros and cons to federal. There's pros and cons to state. Some, can be more restrictive. Some can be less restrictive. There can be more opportunity for low-hanging fruit, with whatever state you're in. I mean, you can go both ways on it, and neither of them truly matter, because none of them are quote unquote good or bad. It's what's good or bad for you. What's a fit for you? And, I have a client who was like, Derek, should I do federal? Should I do state, or should I do both? And I put the question back on them. What can you handle and double down on? If you can double down on both, that's great. Maybe you want to start with one and pick one and then branch out to the other. It's another strategy, but they both work. And sometimes you just gotta, I always have this talk with my girlfriend who's, she's building a business also. You've got to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. If you're throwing spaghetti at federal agencies, state, agencies and local agencies, whatever one sticks, double and triple down on that, grow that thing, focus your energy on that and grow it. And then maybe in a while, consider branching out to those other things. Because, without revenue, without cash flow, your business is just a hobby. It's
Right.
not a business.
That is
It needs
correct.
that to stay alive.
That is
That's,
correct.
as an entrepreneur and a business owner, as you know, I mean, revenue is what it's all about.
That is key. That is key.
Putting it
And
very quickly.
we, like my company, me and my team, we all actually sat down and chatted and said, hey, because like the very first contract we bidded on was in Phoenix.
Oh, wow.
And everything that seemed like we wanted to bid on was on the West Coast. And I was like, well, how are we going to handle this?
Yeah.
So we decided, matter of fact, I sent your video and my team sent your video on low hanging fruit. And we just stopped, revamped everything and said, hey, let's just refocus on everything within 100 miles of us first and then spread out. So that's what we just revamped and start over that way. And actuality, it worked. I've met several different contractors that's in the federal here in Georgia, and just talking to them, and they always keep telling me, don't give up. That's the most thing. Everybody gives up. Don't give up and just keep applying for more bids and go from there. So that was a biggie. That was a wake up call for me, actually. But it helped. It did help. It did help. And like I said, by Georgia having so many agencies here, we start looking at like who's our main, like the veterans here, or the Army and the
you got Dobbins there, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was what I did was I went back and sat down and took the time to write down everyone that had an award at those particular areas. That way I could get a breakdown of the procurement officers for the federal government. So only thing we could do was just send them out an email just to say hello.
Yes, I love it.
This is us. And some give us feedback, and some, I guess, just throw it in the trash. But at least they know who we are.
And it's always about, it's always about the follow-up, initial contacts. It's always about the follow-up, whether it's a meeting or a capability briefing you're having with the government personnel, you're going to a conference, whatever. I always say the goal should be the follow-up, because nothing happens on the first contact. Especially if you go to a conference or something like that, where it's really busy and they're getting a million capability statements and a million business cards. They don't know who you are. And frankly, they don't care. I've spoken with them many times. They're tired. They want to go home, especially on the second or third day of something like an event. But even when you're doing your own personal marketing campaigns and reaching out, just that first touch, it's not going to result in a sale. It's not going to result in a contract. Anybody who has sales experience knows that it's really touch 7, touch 8, touch 9, the establishing of a relationship, finding excuses to get in front of them. And it really does start with, it sounds like exactly what you've done. You start with a list. You find who is there, like who is in the area, and then you start coming up with excuses to get in front of them. And once you have that excuse, then you do a follow-up. Then you come up with another excuse, and then another follow-up. Then you have 6, 7, or 8 touches, and now they're like, who is this person? After like 4 or 5 months, you start bidding on their contracts, and then you do debriefs, and you really get to get closer with them on the phone, and show them that you're jumping through all the hoops that they want you to do. And before you know it, you've got somebody who knows who you are. And it's all that effort just to develop a relationship. But now they know, like, and trust you. And you would be surprised one day to get a phone call or an inbound email saying, hey, we've got a requirement coming up. Could you take a look at the statement of work? Let me know if you can do this. Those things really happen, guys.
Nice.
And it sounds like you're getting started, or you got started doing that. And I'm also telling it to you, Jeff, like, keep the pedal on the gas, because what you're doing is exactly what you should be doing. Again, find reasons to follow up with those people. Don't just knock on their door once.
Gotcha.
So we can probably get close to rounding it out now. I know that you touched on advice. Is there anything else that you would recommend as advices, before we end the interview?
My biggest advice is don't give up. you have to keep going. I see the potential in every particular company. If my company can win a contract, I know you can win a contract. So definitely do not give up.
Great. I think that, and it's not giving up is one of those things that are often heard and often said. But Jeff, you've lived it. You know what that means. You know what it feels like to not give up. It feels like, man, I'm wasting my time. Man, should we just go back to commercial on what's working for our business? Man, I'm responding to things and we're not winning. Maybe we're not cut out for this. And then, it's pushing through that and then winning. Guys, that's what it means, and that's what it feels like, and that's what Jeff means also when he's saying don't give up. It means it's going to get hard, it's going to hurt, it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yes, it very much was so very uncomfortable. Because and I will admit, when we first started in my team, we thought, oh, this will be easy. We get it together, we send a bid out, we'll automatically get it. I mean, no problems, but nobody really tells you the truth to tell you, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You just got to put your time in and just work for it.
Nothing good comes easy, right?
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Jeff, last question for you. What are your plans for 2021? Are you going after more contracts? What do you have on the market?
My plans is to definitely go out to more contracts and expand our company, because I remember I talked to you before about an umbrella because I wanted to add more divisions. So by the end of the year, we would like to add on a transportation department or under the company as well, and
like freight, trucking, logistics.
Yes. And hopefully this part would take care of that part and continue to grow.
I love it. It's a huge thing that the government buys. I definitely see success in that for you if you decide to go that route. There's a lot of folks that are interested in that as well, just from the numbers of I can see the stats on the videos I do, and I did a trucking, freight, logistics.
That was great. That was great. I watched that.
It was one of the most viewed videos. So it's a hot area. And I know from the government side, it's something that they buy a lot of. So I love that you're considering that to expand into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is my goal by the end of late summer, early fall to get into that. So right now I'm doing all my research, and as long as we're getting out two bids a month, I'm happy, and hopefully we get everything moving.
I love it, Jeff. And I wanted to let you go, but I keep thinking of these amazing things that I wanted to follow back up on, because you put so many golden nuggets in this, and some of them I missed that I want to go back to. But just as one last thing, I promise. You mentioned that you have assembled a little bit of a team. And so you said you have, I think, 2 individuals that are actually working with you to help basically qualify and review the opportunities within the first 15 or 20 minutes to see, hey, is this even something that's worth our time? We call that qualifying a bid or making a bid, no bid decision. Could you just tell us a little bit about your team? Because I think this is something that nobody ever talks about. And how are you affording it, cost wise? Are these people full time, or are they commission? Can you just tell me a little bit about your team if you're willing to? I think it would be really helpful.
Oh, sure. I did go to my team, and currently my team is not getting paid. I let them know up front, hey, once we start winning our contracts, you will get a percentage of each one of the contracts. But I also told them this is something as an opportunity for you as well, that you might come to me and say, hey, Jeff, I want to branch off. Can you help me? I already know what's going on. And they agreed. They loved it. So
that's all.
And they seen the opportunity. They believed in me, because everybody that you think is capable of doing this is not. So don't just go get your best friend. Get someone that because the person my first person on my team, me and him worked together at another job, and I just kept talking to him, and I knew he loves to read. So that was, to me, I was like, man, this guy loves to read all the time. And I know the contracts can be long. And I said, if I could just get him in here and let him understand what's going on, he would catch on. So it took me probably 4 months before he actually said yes to it. And the other lady that's on our team, she came in with no problem. She's what I call our proofreader of everything. She checks all the mistakes. As a matter of fact, she stays on me to say, Jeff, that's not the way it's supposed to be done.
Nice. She's a red team. We call that red team, the person who makes sure it's in compliance. Yeah.
And I love that. And the best thing around it is none of those two people were my true friends that I have. It's somebody that I found outside. And I told them, and a lot of people worry, well, what about the money? What about the money? Yes, the money eventually would come. And I was straight up and honest.
What about the money thing, Jeff?
They know their percentage they would get on every contract. And I wasn't trying to hide it. I didn't want to say, okay, you're going to make $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year.
Blow smoke or whatever, yeah.
I wanted them to see that the work that you put in is paying out, and you would get that percentage of what we negotiated on.
Yep.
Yeah.
You are the truest form of an entrepreneur. Your ability to be resourceful. You've managed to assemble a team to work with you to do compliance, to do red team, also to do bid, no bid. And not only that, but they didn't know about government contracting. You had them go to, sounds like my resources or some other group of resources to learn and educate them to do this stuff. And now they're doing it, and they're doing it, they're not doing it for free. They're doing it for a percentage as they help to grow the business, which I absolutely love because it keeps your overhead costs low and down, and you're not, overburdening your small business with, money, that is not necessarily coming in just yet. As we know, you just won your contract. So it's going to be from the contracts side of things, but you're just getting started, and you're going to win more contracts, and you're maybe going to branch out into freight and logistics. And that's where your team is really going to be able to see that the proof in the pudding and the benefits and the growth to make it, worth their while as well. But being able to secure that up front is extremely resourceful. And guys watching this, take a personal note from Jeff's ability to be resourceful as a small business owner to basically attract to him the things that he needs, because he knows he cannot do it all by himself. He said that himself. He can't, it's too much. So if you're able to be resourceful and attract some of the things that you need and, arrange some sort of arrangement or whatever, if you need it, just know that he can do that and you can do it too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I find a bid or I'll automatically send it to the team, and within 2 to 3 days, they'll send it back to me, and then we'll meet once a week. We meet every, matter of fact, when I finish this interview, we're going for a meeting.
Love it. So, and then you go after, what they got on their plate for the week, opportunities that maybe they found to be good ones, and you kind of come in and you have the final say. Right.
And we all, it's not just me that has the final say, because the way I set it up is by us having three, either all three or 2 out of the 3 has to say yes. Because I wanted to make sure my team is included in everything.
I love that.
And communication was the biggest key for me, to make sure that everyone's communicating back and forth on everything. So that was the biggest key for me. And you got to trust your staff and always award them. When we won our first contract, I took them out for Mexican. So, just to say thank you.
Jeff, I could literally have a whole nother conversation about this, because management and developing teams is such a personal interest of mine. And maybe we'll have you back in the future. We can talk about, how many more, great things that your company is doing and how you've grown. I don't want to keep you from your meeting, but thank you so much for sharing everything that you've shared. I can't believe the level of depth we were able to go with. I think a lot of this is going to be extremely helpful. And I'm not just blowing smoke. The stuff that we were able to cover this, guys, watching this on replay, if you're watching this on YouTube, take notes, watch this again. And I know at least half of this is going to apply to everybody watching. And then some of it's even more is going to apply to some of you as well. So Jeff, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. Congratulations on your recent win. And it's been an absolute blast hanging out with you today.
Same here. Same here. Talk to you again soon.
Yeah, take care. We'll be in touch.
All righty.